Hey everybody, my name is Phil with Phil's Dubia Feeders. In this video, I'm going to cover Dubia care, maintenance, setup, humidity levels, cleanage, size, everything. I'm going to basically drop almost all the knowledge I have as this video goes on. And here in a little bit, I'm going to be feeding them. I got the lettuce warming up right now. You'll find out why. Stay tuned, like, subscribe. I got the lettuce. I got 1 pound. We're gonna see if they eat it all. I have 1 pound lettuce right now heating up. I'm gonna start giving it to them in about 4 hours. So we're gonna see how that goes. So my room is very hot right now because I love my bugs. These are some of the sacrifices that I do to make my bugs happy. So as you can see right now, oof, rough. My room is rocking about 90 degrees. So they have had plenty of time to cook over the last... see what I did there? Cook. They've had plenty of time to cook over the last 24 hours. So stay tuned, and thanks for tuning in, and like, subscribe. And please, 2 things. I have created a Facebook page, Phil's Dubia Feeders. I'd very much appreciate a follow on there, especially if you're in the Texas area. You can come do a live pickup and check out the colonies in person. I love showing them off. And I also have created a profile on Morph Market, where you'll be able to order your roaches there if you're outside the state. I can't ship yet, so I'm still developing things. As you'll see in the video, I'm still very small entrepreneur. But with your support and your like and subscribes, and hopefully purchase of roaches, I'll be able to reach to the stars with your help and be able to get roaches to everybody who needs them. So thanks again for tuning in, and let's go ahead and dive into the video. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the future and see where we're at roughly at about 11:30 midnight tonight, because it's 6:30 right now. So I'll see you in about 4 hours. Let's go. Hey everybody, my name is Phil from Phil's Dubia Feeders, and today I'm going to be creating this video as kind of like the ultimate final guide anybody will need to maintain a Dubia colony efficiently. There are many designs. You can go all natural, which require dirt substrate and stuff that take a lot more work to maintain. That's not the idea of this. This is about efficiency, and basically that's it. It's about efficiency. And so that's what we're going to be over. This is going to be a nice, cheap way to do it. As well, I'm going to go over a lot of things, and as a warning, I do talk a lot, so heads up. There will be a lot of information now, like I said, because this is meant to be a full Dubia, how to breed your own colony kind of video. You want to grow your Dubia colony and or start a Dubia colony, and you don't exactly know how and or want some pointers. So that's what this video is all about. So basically, you have 2 options when it comes to your bin design. You have a totally solid one that you cannot see through, like this one right here, which is, this by the way is Brute trash can. But you can get a regular, tote from Walmart or whatever. Or you can get clear ones like I have here, or like the example one I'm going to be using for this video. They have their advantages and disadvantages. In general, I recommend, especially if you are an experienced roach breeder, to definitely get the solid walls one, because less light overall is better for the production of your colony, because they are a dark insect. They do like the night. They are a nighttime insect. That being said, clear tubs are also perfectly fine. They can get basically accustomed to the light. And as we'll go over later on in the design, that they actually have a lot of options to get away from the light. So clear tubs really aren't that big of a deal long term if you're just a small time breeder and not trying to like max min your colonies to ridiculous levels. For an example, a lot of people use heating pads. Most people, you don't need heating pads once the colony gets established. So, like I said, you have 2 options. You have your solid containers, or you have your clear containers. We're going to be going with the clear containers. So, one of the things that I'd like to do is put a little, it's not a substrate, but I'm going to go ahead and call it a substrate. What I use is right here inside this bin. One second, let me get some out. Is this alfalfa hay that you get for like hamsters or whatever it is, guinea pigs, things like that, any kind of pet store. Or if you are one of the people that likes to bring a lizard outside, for an example, so this wouldn't be a big deal for you, let them walk on the grass and the leaves and stuff. Since you're already exposing them to your environment, one thing you can do if you don't want to go buy one of these monstrosities, right? Because you just need that much on that, and this will last for months. So I understand if you wouldn't want to spend the money on something like that. So one thing that I've done, and I can recommend, if you feel comfortable, not everybody wants to do this because they don't want to take the risk. I understand. But you can basically, I'm here in Texas, you can just go into your backyard, collect dry leaves, and put them in, and it's going to function the exact same way. Because what we don't actually want for this particular tub design is a bunch of substrate, because this is about efficiency. We want the frass from the babies, which is the poop for those of you that don't know. It's the roach poop is referenced to as fraze, I lied. F-R-A-Z-E, I think. I'm not a speller. Who cares? Anyway, that's what will create a substrate layer. The number of people that say fraze is good for your roaches, it is not. It is not good. It is not necessarily horrible for them, but it is not an ideal scenario either. I promise you, there's no roach out there in the wild just looking for a pile of his own species fraze to just dig a burrow in. That's not what's happening in nature. In captivity like this, it's okay. They can survive it. It's not the end of the world. As long as it stays dry and clean, basically, it's not that big of a deal. But when you add dirt in there, like I've done like coconut husk before, or dirt or sand or something, and then you mix in, and then you don't clean it and you have a big colony. And then you don't clean it for several months, 3 months, 6 months, a year. All that poop gets combined with the dirt that you've put in there, all the way from the smallest babies to the adults over the months that they've grown up. So basically, your dirt mass has doubled. Not quite, because half of it's poop, but the massive stuff you're going to have to shift through is a lot, and half of it will basically be feces at that point. And it can become wet and damp because of all the number of droppings, and it can just come gross. It's a lot. So that's one reason why I now stay away from it. I don't like adding the substrate, even for a nice visual piece. It's just too much maintenance for me personally. I don't like it. So I like these nice, simple things. Because what happens is if you don't put substrate in it, the roaches can fall on their back and then they can't get up because there's nothing for them to grab onto because it's just this blank plastic surface, especially if it's like a feeder tub and there's not a lot of roaches in it anymore because it's near the end. And so, because what can happen, they'll land on their back and another one crawls over them and they can right themselves. But if you don't have a lot of roaches in the tub anymore, the odds of that happening go down drastically and they just die on their back. So to mitigate this, we put in these things. So when they do fall on their back, there's something there for them to be able to grab onto to help right themselves. Okay, so now we got to talk about what we're going to put inside for them to hold on to. The main thing that everybody uses, and I do recommend, is egg crates. I'm going to show you this right here. This is an example piece, but it's a little deceiving because my lighting's bad. It's a little deceiving because it's also kind of like diamond shaped. But if you actually look close, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. This is actually a hexagon pattern, which is the most efficient design in nature, #bees. So when you use egg crates and you take them and you put them inside this tub, you are actually maximizing the surface area. The way this is designed, coincidentally, the way this is designed, it just happens to maximize the surface area. There's basically no better way to do this. Some people will put cardboard in between the things. You don't need to do that. It just takes away surface area. You don't really use it. It just areas for the babies to go in and hide, and then you have to deal with the cardboard. It's annoying. Don't put cardboard in there. I'll show you what to do. But it does create but it is the most efficient design. So it is the most efficient design to maximize the surface area for what's inside. And luckily, roaches are considered a colony insect. Not colony as in the Hymenoptera, which are things like bees and ants, but colony in the sense that they like forming groups because there's things like safety in numbers. So that's why when you look at things over here, if you can kind of see them, they'll tend to cluster up, but then there'd be big blank spaces because, again, they like to cluster because it's a safety in numbers thing. That's what makes them happy. Being generally in small groups, but here in captivity for production, they're big groups, but they're colony insects. So how do we get these egg crates in here? I'm going to show you how to get these egg crates. I'm going to show you what to do. Some people, a lot of people, oops, give me 1 second. They have their egg crates, and they'll take them and they'll put them in like this. This is obviously too big. They'll get a bigger tote. Oops, my bad. They would get their egg crates, and they would take them and they would put them in like this. This is obviously not tall enough for this particular design, but if you had something like this trash can up here, which is obviously taller than it, you could stand it up, right? So just for argument's sake, though, just pretend this is the thing. So a lot of people will put the egg crates in here and they'll stack them up like this. What you want to do is maximize the surface area. So it kind of matters a little bit. You want these sides to match these sides and like these sides to match, like that. It would like look like this and or like this because it'd be interchanging, right? So if you had more than one, this one would go like this. Oops, I can't really hold it out, but I think you get the idea. So that's what you can do. That's what a lot of people do. But here is what I recommend instead. I'll show you the technique here in a second. But what you do is you actually rip it down the middle, but where it still connects. Okay, so this is still structurally sound. And as you fold it together, this is now comparatively, this by itself is super solid. So this can now go in here and creates a very nice, strong base. We get the other egg crate, and I happen to know with my particular tub, because how all tubs are designed when they mass produce, they basically near the bottom of the tub it's going to be smaller, less width than it is at the top. Because when you create multiple plastics, you need to create an air gap, and so they put it at the bottom, so it's a little bit smaller to allow the air to come in, so they can separate the plastics from each other. So what can easily fit in at the top can be a little tight at the bottom. So I happen to know, again, with these, this is called the critter keeper. I'm gonna spread my thing out a little bit more even here. I know that I in particular need to do something like this. I like to line it up. And then whoop, like this, wedge it in. You can see it's going to be fairly firm. And so this is now a very, very strong, sturdy structure that's, like I don't want to knock over, I don't want to tip it over all the way. I don't want the stuff to get on the floor. Yeah, there you go. Whoops. Hey, yeah, look at that. See? Yeah, so this is what we're looking for right here. This is the best way to kind of like maximize your surface area and your things. So the next thing you'll need, if you didn't already do it, by the way, is going to be cotton balls. You will need roughly 4. You can put more in there, but yeah. So you can either like this, you can drop them in on the sides, you can drop them down in the middle of the hole. Sometimes I like to make sure I get them in on the bottom. Oops, man, that's snug. 1 second. Come on. There we go. So like I was saying, so one of the things I like to do is I like putting them in the corners. As you can see, maybe. Right there. Right, so I'm actively using these here as my colony. They're in here too. Trust me. They are very important, and I will explain why momentarily. So you can either, like I was saying, you can put your cotton balls in before, or you can put your cotton balls in after. I roughly like trying to get them in the corners. It doesn't really matter though. They're going to get messed up no matter what you do. So we're going to go ahead and slide that bad boy back in there. We have our substrate on the bottom, our little like sticks. We have our thing right here, the egg race. So the next thing, where is it? Oh, how to create that little break. How to create this fold. I'll show you how to do it. This is my last one, so I only have one shot to do this correctly. I'm going to show you right now. It's a little hard to tell, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 one way and 6 the other way. So this is actually half and half. This you'd have to split down the middle, which is super annoying. You would need scissors and stuff. Instead, what you can do, you're going to use these as kind of like the fulcrum pressure points. And you can use the backhand as well as you like split them apart. So using these like this, oops, you're going to go like this. Start on the outside, you're basically going to work your way down. And you're going to just rip them apart. Just like that. Easy. And just put a little bit of pressure right there. Sometimes they get stuck. That's why you go from the outside in. So that's it. And you now have that structure that I was telling you about for inside of your crates. And once they're like this, you can continue to stack them up. So that way you get passages that are double stacked. Or, like what I did inside of my trash can here, is I ended up putting them parallel or whatever. Not parallel. Whatever the opposite parallel is. I put them like this. So that way there's a double stack going up for a little bit more secure because it's a circle. So the structure is supported on the bottom that way, and then the next tier supported this way. The next thing that you're going to need though is this. This is going to be basically your food and water. So this is in particular important along with the cotton balls, as I was saying. Because one of the things that I put inside of here are called dermistan beetles. I like calling them flesh-eating beetles because it's kind of like captivating. But essentially, they're called the lesser mealworms. They're really small. You'll see them in my colonies and things like that. The beetles, at full grown, are roughly the size of newborn dubia. So roughly the size of a pebble. So the mealworms are super, super small. I'll show you some photos of them in a little bit. But the reason this is important, because it keeps all the food and grossness off the bottom. You put all your food here, most of it stays on, not all of it. Because dry food or wet food, if you put anything like shredded lettuce, something that's like a piece, some of them will grab their piece and run away. And if it's a big piece, they'll eat their fill and then drop it. And now you just have rotting whatever's on the bottom if nothing else comes in and eat it. So to help combat this, I use dermistan beetles. So these flesh-eating beetles. So that way, when who naturally, by the way, eat rotting dead flesh, particularly dried out flesh is what they kind of prefer. So imagine like a goat or whatever got killed and is on the cliff of a mountain or in the forest somewhere just like baking in the sun. That's what these guys kind of go for after the moisture's been evaporated, not when it's gooey. After the gooey stage. That's kind of where the beetles like bread and butter is. So I put them in the colony to deal with the ones that die inside of it. This is really the only way how you can have a maintenance-free colony. You can't really do that, but this is as close as you're going to get to it. Because the beetles will also eat other things along with the cockroaches, which are also part of nature's cleanup crew. So anything that the roaches don't eat, the beetles will eat. But you don't want to feed the beetles first. You want your roaches to eat first. So that's why we have this system that keeps the roaches and food off the bottom. Because the mealworms are not as good as climbing the sides. They definitely can. They can still get into this top tray. It's annoying. But is a lot harder for them, especially because we put the cotton balls down below. The cotton balls act as a natural kind of like structure that the beetles will lay their eggs in and try and pupate in rather than in the egg crates, which affects the structures of your wall. As I'm talking right now, I have a photo I'll post right here as I talk of the stages that I just tracked. I just saw this guy forming. You're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. But this guy's going to form a pupate in the wall. They, in my opinion, they look a little bit like Kakuna, the Pokemon, for those of you that don't know. And as they do that, they come the beetle, and then they have to break out of that chamber that they made. So as they do that, it destroys the integrity of your wall, increasing the wear and tear on your egg crates. So that's why we put the cotton balls in. So when you put the cotton balls in, they will use them and they will spread out. So this is an example, a clean example of what they would look like. This is one I used with 3 different cotton balls. You can see the beetles are right there. They're underneath. Oh yeah, hey look, that's their larva. Yeah, so you can see this is their size. They're super small. But anyway, so this is what the cotton balls will end up looking like eventually when they go through. Which will also, by the way, create nice support structure down here on the bottom, because the wheat and stuff gets tangled up in it. And so when you have to clean it up, it's just nice. You just pick one big mass up, and all the babies are either there or not, and then it's just super convenient. I'm just telling you. And the one thing I would kind of look out for, though, is that because the adult beetles are the same size as the newborn dubia, particularly when you are cleaning it out, the baby, not a lot, of the baby dubia will run inside there because they can fit. In general, they won't really go in there, though, because it's too beetle heavy. They will kind of stay up above that and sleep how my guys are over here, way up here on these different rings. They're not going to stay on the bottom. The beetles will kind of go into the cotton balls, while the roaches will use the egg crate. So it's kind of like 2 habitats in one. There's a little interchange, but basically they will stay separate. So that's why we put our food tray at the top, because the beetles are at the bottom. The larvae will mainly be at the bottom. The beetles will wander all over the place, so there's nothing you can do about that. So, with the food being on top, though, that means your roaches will get access to it first, and they will get their fill. And when they drop off scraps to the bottom, the larvae and stuff will eat those scraps rather than coming up here and trying to get the main source. So it's better this way, because that way you get to actually regulate and feed your roaches first before you're trying to feed everything else at the same time, because we don't need that going on. So some things that people will talk about or notice. I'm trying to remember everything. Like I said, I'm trying to make this like a full video. But humidity levels and temperature. These are important when we raise dubia roaches. Dubia roaches are from Argentina. They're a tropical species. So that's why they do well with higher, not too high, but higher temperatures and higher humidity than a lot of other insects that are in the feeder trade. So I'm going to give you a little bit of guidance here on what to do and how to kind of regulate your colonies a little bit here. Roaches, like lizards, are exothermic, which means they regulate their body temperature from the outside. Humans and other mammals are endothermic, which means we regulate our body temperature from the inside, to keep all this stuff simple. So if we're cold, we can do push-ups, and that activates our muscles, creates energy. We burn up our energy, but it generates heat. Roaches and lizards can't do that. They have to get powered up by the sun, basically, and or the environment. If very air is warm, that also works. They don't need direct sunlight. So they're exothermic. So higher temperatures in general are better for them. And so when you increase the temperature, things like growth rate go up, the birth rate goes up, their shed rate goes up, and all these other things increase. It shortens the timeline it can shorten the timeline a lot, but in general it shortens the timeline. But there is a catch and a downside I have found out as well. if you pump up the temperature to like, if you want to like max them in and you don't care about like their happiness or whatever you want to call it, you can pump up the temperature to be, let's just say, a steady 90 degrees. And you have to maintain a humidity level. Sorry, I'm like hiccuping, burping. And you have to maintain a humidity level at about 80%. 90 if you could manage it, but that's hard. You wanted to get about 80% without getting condensation on the wall. It's very difficult. But if you can, it's nice. So here's the catch, though. When you pump it up, the average lifespan of a Dubia roach when they're growing up or whatever is like 3 months. So when they are, because the Dubia mothers give live birth, so they typically will keep the babies inside of them for 3 to 4 months at a time. But like I said, they're exothermic. So if you can pump the temperature up to like 90 degrees and or provide a heat mat kind of a thing, you can get them to give birth at 2 months. You can get those babies going from nymphs to adults in like 9 months instead of a year and 2 months kind of a thing. But the downside is the wear and tear that happens to the animal. Just like on a farm animal, like a cow or something. If you make the cow produce too many babies too fast, you can do it, but long-term health of the cow is not good, and then it doesn't take long before it starts affecting the offspring. The same thing is true for the roaches. So, if you put them at 90 degrees, you can get them, they probably will, I've done it, get them to give birth at 2-month intervals. But your females, who are the moneymakers, and the breadwinners, if you will, of feeding your lizards and stuff, they normally can live 3 to 5 years. When you pump that up to 90 degrees, you're cutting their lifespan to like 1.5 to 2 years. 3 years max. Like it's and anything above 90 degrees is just exponential. I don't know, I haven't done the math, but I just know it'd be worse. So that's why I don't recommend it. Like you can, if for whatever reason you're in an emergency, a 2-month emergency, I guess, or whatever, like you can do it. I do not recommend it though. What I do recommend is about 80 to 85 degrees in general during the summer. I'm here in Texas a lot of times. Like right now, I can show you, I'm in my room because I like my bugs. I suffer with them. I don't know if you'll be able to read that. But it is 85 degrees right now in my room. That's why I'm in like shorts and a wife beater because it's hot. My windows are open. I'm in Texas. But this is actually their kind of ideal temperature. Like if we were in Argentina, it'd be summertime and nighttime, kind of a cooler night. They'd be out walking around. This is the time. I have my lights on right now. They're a little shy. But like this is when they would be out. So 80 to 85 is actually kind of like the ideal summer range where you're not min-maxing your roaches. And naturally, for most of you, depending on your species of lizard or whatever pet, will naturally drop off during the winter because your animal, say, hibernates or burmates, depending on whatever you may have. And so you're not going to need those roaches during winter anyway. So what you can do, you can take your roaches, and if you have again, I'm in Texas, you can take your roaches and just keep them inside their tote and just put them in the garage or something, or in a closet, somewhere where it's going to get like 60-ish degrees. Totally fine. I promise you, it's fine. They'll be fine. The babies will be fine. Everything will be fine. Because in Argentina, you can go Google it, it gets below 60 degrees. So in the wild, they'd be exposed to way worse potential elements. So inside your house, in a closet, in a tote or whatever, at 65, 60 degrees is going to be okay. Because we'll also remember, because they're exothermic, their body temperature is going to slow down. So they're also not going to eat as much. They're not going to grow as much. They're not going to need as much attention. You're not going to have to clean the terrarium or whatever, the tote, the bin, for like that entire winter. Maybe even into spring, because there just simply won't be that much of a maintenance necessary for you to do. That's a high possibility. So temperature range. Ideally, you want 80 to 85 during the summer, and during the winter, room temperature in general is fine as well. Even during the summer, if you have a lizard in your house, you can set the tank on top of their tank for the heat because it rises. If you don't want to use a heat mat. Personally, I don't think you even need a heat mat. If you have a steady colony of enough feeders at room temperature, it will be enough to feed your lizard, because your lizard's going to get, like bearded dragons for an example, they're going to get other, and you should be giving your animal other insects as well. I think they should be Dubia dominant because of what they are, but you should definitely be giving your animal other things. Bearded dragons in particular need their greens. So dubias are only going to be an aspect of it anyway. So one colony, 50 to 100, depending how many animals you have, will probably be okay. Something this big, by the way, can and is right here. Well, that one, I guess, but this one is suitable for a colony of about. Oh, and you count colonies only by breeding females. You do not count the juveniles, and you do not count the males. Yes, they're there. That's kind of one of those things that you have to know. Like, yes, they're in the background. You get some guesstimations. If you don't know, ask. For people who don't know, they won't ask, and they'll just assume you're talking about the entire colony. But for us in the biz, I guess, I only talk or only count the breeding females because they're essentially the only ones that matter and or matter the most. So when I say like 100 member or 100 colony, I'm specifically talking about female adult dubia breeders, not any of the juveniles or anything like that. Sometimes maybe like there'll be extra large females, nymphs, that I know are going to be adults in a couple months or so, like they're 1 molt away or something. You can count those, I guess, right, if you're pre-counting. But basically, that's how that's done. So a small tote this size, you would need 2 of these, by the way, is what you're going to need for like a bearded dragon or something. If you have something that doesn't eat a lot of roaches, something this big for like a tarantula or something will be more than adequate. Bearded dragon, you're probably going to need about 2 of these. Because this is essentially going to be your breeder box. This is the one you're going to clean every like 6 months or so. So picture this now. Inside this, right here, like what I have going on right there. Oh, look at that. Male's trying to give you a little bit better angle here. Like I have right here. Oh, on this one, I also put a piece this way. So that's why it looks like that. So a tote this size, yeah, has about, this one here has like 200, now. This one here has about 125 females, I think, give or take. I have not exactly, maybe it's like 133 or something. But it's a little bit over 100, I do know that. I know it's not 200. I don't think I got to 150. So I think it's something like 130, 125. So there's something like 125 females inside of here. But for something as an example of this size, 125 females pooping over 6 months is not that much. It's not that much. If they weren't having babies, you wouldn't need to clean this thing essentially for years at that rate. But when they have babies, their babies contribute. And that's why you will need to clean this out roughly every 4 to 6 months, depending on what you're doing and your tote size and things like that. But roughly every 4 to 6 months is about roughly what you do. Because, as I mentioned earlier, your dubias have a 3 to 4 month incubation period where they stay inside of the female. So if you had a brand new colony, you bought extra smalls, for an example. You bought 1,000 extra smalls for like 6 cents or whatever it was, free, I don't know. And you're growing out your colony. Because you want to grow a colony for your bearded dragon, for an example. I'm going to grow out my own colony. That is going to take about 2 years to establish. Maybe a year if you're willing to shell out a bunch of money up front and buy adult females that are already known breeders or about to give birth or something. But you're going to be paying like, depending, $3 to $10 per female. So like it's super expensive. Don't recommend that. You can buy mine, but I don't recommend it. So anyway, so you get your extra smalls or whatever, your smalls, whatever. The dubia takes about 9 months to a year to actually grow up. So if you get your extra smalls or smalls or whatever it is, you're looking at 8 to 9 months for them to grow up. And they're not going to all grow up at the same rate. So if you buy 100 in 9 months, you're looking at maybe, hopefully, 50% of them are actually adults and getting ready to breed, while the other ones are still catching up. And you might even have some that are still only mediums. It's crazy how that can happen. I don't know why. So it takes a while to actually start up. So you have to wait roughly a year to get those babies to get to adults. Then you have to wait for those adults to mate and incubate the babies. So now that's that 3-month period again. That's that 3 to 4 month period where the female has to incubate the babies. Then those babies need to get born. So we're at least a year and 3 months, maybe 4. Then those babies need to get born. And depending on what size lizard you have, let's go with the bearded dragon, you're going to need to wait. You already have an adult bearded dragon, so you need to feed, at 2 years, you need to feed them adult dubias at that point. So that means you would need to wait basically another year for those feeders to grow up in order for that colony to officially be established, to be able to start pulling from it to feed your lizard on a regular basis without really having to worry about it collapsing. Like, that's what it actually takes to get the colony going and established to maintain for one of your bearded dragons. It's about a 2-year project. You have to kind of maintain this little ecosystem of your pet and their food source. And their food source is also valuable, just like cows and chickens. Like, you have to treat them nice, because you are what you eat. So same thing for your lizard. If you don't treat the bugs good, the nutrient stuff isn't going to transfer very well to your animal, whatever it is. So yeah, you have that. So heating, humidity, temperature, that's why those are important. One other thing, here's pro tip. This is not for everybody, but what you can do is basically create a little like humidity station if you're worried about it. I, again, don't really need them. I do recommend them, but they do require another level of maintenance. But basically, this tub is a little tall, but it's about surface area. So what you would do, ideally, you'd get for something this size, you'd get something about this big. It needs to be about this tall, and you fill it up with water. You could put something like your water gel in there or something if you think it would be better. But you can just use tap water. Doesn't really matter, because we just need the humidity. They're not drinking it. So you put this in. Now this lid in particular already has like the vent holes in it. You don't really need that plastic part in my example. That's just how this particular lid is. But you have that lid with a screen on it, so the dubia can't fall in, but humidity can get out. The dubia will crawl on top of this as kind of like a natural soaking area. So those of you who have bearded dragons and other animals know that sometimes, and even not, if you don't have to, it's just better, that your lizard probably enjoys a nice warm bath to help loosen up, your snakes too probably, enjoy nice warm water baths to help loosen up that their shedding to help them get it off. Dubias and other insects want a very similar thing. That's why we actually need the humidity inside the thing. And if you don't have high enough humidity levels, basically their carapace is too hard, or hardens at a too fast or too slow rate, and their wings don't have enough time to unfurl for the males, or whatever it is. There's just 1,000 additional things that can go wrong. And so that's why we need to kind of like that's the goal of maintaining the humidity inside of the thing. But we don't want to humidify this whole thing, otherwise we get the condensation on the side, and all the stuff goes down and mixes in with the poop, and you get this nice sludge, and it's gross. We don't need that in our lives. So what do we do to combat this? Well, that's what this is for. This creates a little like zone where the humidity can come up, so when they go on top of it, this whole area allows them to be soft. It creates a natural gradient that you would want for something like your lizard, right? If you had a bearded dragon, you want one side of your terrarium, to be like 80, 90 degrees, and you want the other side to be like 70, 80 degrees. So that way they can say, hey, I want to go hotter, I want to go warmer. you want to give basically your roaches the same kind of an option. You can give your roaches the same kind of an option. But when you do this, you need to get a container that will be the right size for your box. You can also cut out a little section here. I'll show you how to do that. You can just rip it apart. But your hydration hydration station, it needs to be basically level. It doesn't look level there. It looks level from my angle. It needs to be level with your container or below. It can be fairly far below too, by the way, because your roaches need to be able to climb on top of it. It's okay. They can just fall off. It's not going to hurt them. They're going to stay on until their carapace hardens enough, and they will naturally just run and fall off or climb back off if it's touching it, which I do recommend you can do. But just know that beetles, if you are like me and you use dermestid beetles or something, the tiny little larvas can and will fall through the holes, basically no matter how small you have them. If it's too small, the humidity won't get through, so you can't go too small anyway. And some of the cockroach poop will also get through, particularly the really small ones that are from the nymphs. That will also go through and get inside the water. Another reason why you want this somewhere near the top, for easy access, so that way, it's sitting there, you're like, it's gross. You just, take it out, clean it out, add new water, can put it back in. Easy fix. You still got humidity and everything else like that. One of the other things that I've also seen people talk about is escapees and things like that. I'm going to put some photos here in this description, but let me explain how this can kind of work, how this works. Basically, there are two ways animals climb up surfaces. You have claws and suction pads. Dubias only have the claws. I'm doing this because that's kind of what it looks like, but they only have the claws. And so they need a groove, even if it's hard to see, they need a groove or something for that claw to hook into, kind of like a mountain climber using those little spikes or something. They need that. So if they can't get that claw in there, they can't climb up the smooth surfaces. Things like Madagascar hissing cockroaches have a suction pad on the end of their foot. It functions very similar to like a gecko's. This is what allows them to climb up smooth surfaces like glass or a plastic tote. If your tote is actually smooth-walled, no dubia will be able to climb out, I promise you. And for those of you that say, I've seen them climb out or I have escapees, let me explain how that's happening. I've seen it happen. It's happened to me. Particularly after you clean, you can't really see this, but after you clean out what can happen, after you clean out your tub, and you say dump it out, right? It creates a layer of dust or dirt that can form on the inside. And that dust and dirt, if it's strong enough or enough of it, it can support the weight of particularly baby dubias. Once they get past a certain size, though, gravity will kick in and it will no longer be able to climb out. But particularly when they're extra small and smalls, yeah, dirt on the side of a plastic tote can be secure enough for them to get high enough to get out. That is totally possible. But again, if your thing is smooth, they will not be able to climb out because they do not have the suction pads. This is like a math thing. It's literally impossible. They couldn't do it. With that being said, males, for those of you that don't know, when they get to adult, males are the ones with wings. Dubias cannot fly. When you think the word typically as fly, they can flutter and stuff, but they can't fly like a bird. And if they can, they don't. They also don't really go up and they don't really go sideways. When they do, if you think about it, they crawled up somewhere high and they're coming down. Dubias, male dubias in particular, use the wings as they wander around searching for females. Females won't go very far. They like to stay underneath a rock or a log. It's the males that will wander around. And so to help them jump from stick to rock, they'll use their wings to give them a little extra pop, kind of like in a video game, like a double jump. That's basically what they use the wings for. But what they can also and do use their wings for is when they end up in high places, like near your ceiling, and they jump off, or what appears to be jumping off, and then they fly at you. They're not flying at you. It's more like Buzz Lightyear's falling with style. They're using their wings as a breaker to slow down their descent. I don't know how accurate they are with it. I don't think they're very accurate at all. But as far as the males in particular, just slowing down their descent, that's what they do it for. So they're not really flying. They are gliding semi-gracefully with style. That's why in my totes, if you were to look right over here, I'm not doing it now, but you can see that I have about a 6-inch gap. That's because the males, with their wings, when they jump up, they get to about here. They have about, with their double jump, they get about 4 to 5 inches. It's rare that they get to the full 6-inch mark. So if you put about a 6-inch gap from the top of whatever your lining is, like this isn't big enough. The odds of a male getting out with wings is like 2%. Like, I rarely don't even put my lids on. Not this one. This one always has the lids on. But I rarely don't put the lids on this one and this one. You can't see it, but the egg crates are only like this high. So I have like this big gap on here too. So I don't need to worry about them really escaping. I've been doing this for years like this. I almost never ever have escapees. It just doesn't happen. When you do everything right. One of the other things that hopefully I can show you right now. I can move them. They're not sensitive. What am I doing? 1 second. This is what I'm feeding them today. They're getting lettuce. Here we go. Got this guy. That's a fake roach on the outside. Ignore that. Okay, so this is like my trash can. So you can see right here, same design. That's what I was talking about earlier. We got it like this. I forgot what I was talking about. You can see the roaches. You can see we have the tray right here as I was describing. So when you put your food in, by the way, this right here, let's just say that they were done eating and I got to add more lettuce in. They're probably not done eating. Let's see if they finish that. But this right here is going to add humidity to your tote. So even if you don't put in anything like this, when you add your fruits and vegetables, your carrots, your lettuce, whatever it is, the water of that will escape, particularly as they eat it and expose it. You know, you can see the water and stuff pooling in here. It's going to go into the environment. So if you put this in, and if you have too big of one, and when you put this in, combined with a bunch of poop that they might do, all of a sudden your humidity can spike, and that's when you end up with all that condensation that suddenly appears on the wall out of nowhere, like overnight, and it's just pooling in the bottom, creating a disgusting mess, drowning your babies and stuff. So that's kind of like one reason why I don't really recommend this unless you know what you're doing. But, oh look, they're coming out. You're so brave. But, yeah. And so, on top of this gap that I have here, like I said, it's about 6 inches. Here's my cell phone, right? So if I were to line it up right there to the top of the thing, right? So it's a cell phone length. It's a big, it's a big cell phone. On top of that, the lid, I don't even latch it. Sometimes I'll just put it on upside down like that. I mean, it's not like they're gonna, pop out of that or anything. Or what I usually do, actually, do it like that. I'll just do like that. And just put a little gap right there. I don't have to cut a hole or glue a screen on or any of that nonsense. I just go like that. It's easy, and obviously, with this, it's adjustable. Hey, I have a little bit too much condensation. Hey, the temperature is wrong. Hey, I gotta walk somewhere. I gotta put clamp it down, transport them. They're already there. It's already secure. Honestly, these are nice, pretty solid ways to go. Yeah, so they cannot fly. They cannot climb up the sides. Occasionally, like I said, you do get your male that gets lucky, that gets that 6-inch hop that happens to catch the side that can pull himself over. But they are very, very far and few in between, because again, they really only jump about 4 or 5 inches with the addition of their wings. So as long as you put that 6-inch gap there, the odds of them escaping are virtually zero. Off the top of my head, I think that pretty much covers everything to kind of help set you guys up for six. Oh, and that's why you also need a second tote. This one, with your females and the juveniles, over that 6 months that it's building up, like the frazzs and stuff, right? At like the 6-month mark, or a good visual indicator, is when you feed them, you start seeing mediums and larges appearing. Depending on what you want to harvest for, I at least use those as markers. When I feed them, I will see mediums and larges, and that's when I know to sort the colony. Because you then take what I do is then take all the babies and I put them in a separate incubator bin. So this is like a breeder box. This is like the incubator bin or incubator box, whatever you want to call it. So now the stage that this is in, I know are only adults minus the new babies that we've seen. I think you've seen that are inside of it right now. All of the bigger ones that they've had, right here on the side, if it'll let me show you, all those guys. There's more in there, I promise you. They're just hiding. Are their babies from like 2 months ago? I think at this point is when I collected them. Because I think like 1 month ago I collected these guys. So you can see they're like smalls. A little bit bigger than a Q-tip right now. Same thing though. You can see the cotton ball right there. The same folded design of the hex with the tray on top. Like I say, it's a super good to go-to design. Works super well everywhere. Everything I've used it in, and so I definitely recommend that. There are, like I said, other levels you can go up to, including more complicated versions of this with like pull-out trays and the whole 9 yards. But for most people, what I've just shown you is going to be good, solid. I think their food also. They mainly eat seeds and grains, believe it or not. You can literally go to like your grocery store, buy a bag of peanuts, and put them in there and watch them eat the peanuts. They will eat the peanuts. That's what they like. They mainly use fruits, vegetables, and lettuce as a water source. That's why you don't put a tub of water in there like you would for your lizard or something. They do not drink water, I guess. They more like absorb it. They do drink it, by the way. Like if you spray the side of the wall, you can see them drink the droplets off the side of the wall. They do drink water. But, in general, 90% of their water intake is from the fruits and vegetables that they eat. So that's why they tend to really like things like iceberg lettuce, citrus stuff, because it also has a strong smell, right? They're sensitive to smell. So apples, citrus stuff, carrots, anything that's really juicy, again, iceberg lettuce, those are things that they really, really enjoy that will go to help hydrate them. Other than that, what I recommend, I'll show you. I got it right here. So this is baby chick feed for baby chickens. It's called Crumbles. You can get it pretty much anywhere. It looks like this. I got my little scooper, and basically this is going to be your dry feed. You just take this, you put it in. I measure it so that way I kind of know how much my colonies in particular are growing, how much they're consuming. It gives me an idea of how big the colony is that I can't see, because I can gauge on how much food they're consuming. Because obviously a lot of them stay hidden, so I can't get a proper count until you do your sorting. But this helps kind of, keep track of what's going on. But you put your dry food on top, and then that way they have access to it all the time. And what's also nice about this, I'll even do it now for you, right here in the video. They'll like it. Let's get these guys back out. Boo, whoop, boo, whoop, boo, whoop. your bag. What you can also do with the crumbles is all that like water and stuff. Yeah, you can just like throw that in there. They'll separate it out, and the crumbles will absorb the water as well, the juices and things like that. Which, by the way, helps soften these up for the babies. You can see how much they're pumped. They want some. Looks like they want some more of this. Let's give them what they want. Oh, you can't even see what I'm doing right now. My bad. Yeah, so yeah, just put the crumbles on there, and like I said, yeah, it'll just absorb it, and yeah, easy peasy. You put a little bit more, add more water in there. So that's another way how you can help control your humidity. If you can keep all their kind of like juices and water and stuff inside of a trap tray like that, you can just add a little bit of kibbles on there, not kibbles, crumbles on there, and it's going to help absorb the liquid, and they'll just come by and eat it as the day goes on. So hopefully, I think that pretty much answered any and all questions anybody could have off the top of my head. But I love to talk about my bugs. Please ask questions, post pictures. I want to see your colonies. I want to see any ideas. Maybe you guys know something that I don't know, or have an idea, or have questions, or whatever. Please communicate. My name is Phil, founder and owner of Phil's Dubia Feeders. This is how I do my setups. How do you guys do yours? Thanks for tuning in, and I hope to see you all in the future. So it turns out I lied. I woke up today and remembered that more things to tell you. So, in particular, with the frags, I'm going to use one of my bins here as kind of an example. Hopefully you'll be able to see this. This is them right here. You can see that I have the sticks. This is hard to do on camera. I got the sticks right there. They're clustering, even though they clearly have more room if they wanted to. But like I said, they like to cluster. And you can kind of see the frags starting to build up right there. But you can also see how it's underneath the sticks. So a good indicator of when to clean is when your frags layer, you can see it right there, it was kind of like pepper, is over the sticks or at the bottom of your arch or whatever, right? So anything, when you're looking at about that much, that's about the time you want to start cleaning out your bins. And so that is one of the advantages of having a clear bin, is that you can see the frags build up, so you know when to clean it. As soon as something goes wrong, you'll be able to see it. Like, you'll be able to see the condensation right away on the wall. You won't have to wait and find out by the smell or something like that 2 days later. So that's one of those advantages that a clear container can give you. In particular, if you're a newer person to this and aren't as good as regulating that kind of instinctually yet, because you don't have the practice. But I would also like to show you what's going on over here this morning. Right now it is 12:41, so we're about 12 hours different from when I started the video. You can see that despite that, it's fairly bright in my room. I've had many in my colony right here. You can see them. They have voluntarily decided to sleep out here on the outside. I don't know if you can see them or not, but we have a couple in there that are actively feeding too. So that's one of the things I was talking about. When they get used to the day, most of them will still have a natural cycle of wanting to sleep during the day and hide from the light. But at the same time, for whatever reason, there's a good number of them that in general will be okay with sleeping on the side, because they rather have the warmth than the darkness. It's one of those individual based down to the roach, which one do they want on any given time. I don't keep track enough. I don't know if one roach always prefers darkness or one always prefers heat or anything like that. But I do know that there's plenty of them that don't mind the light in general. And your sound and volume. Normally I have music playing, so that's why I'm not worried about talking right now. You can see that my guys are not in particular, they're not really reactive to like my shadow and things. Like they do, but not really. So these guys here are eating during the day. And I wanted to show you, that's all their lettuce and water. Here's a little of their their food. We'll check in here. You can already see some of them are moving in. And so this will help absorb some of that liquid and stuff like that. So we're gonna, oh, look at that. We have another albino. We have one molting, yeah. So like I said, I also wanted to show you, now that you hopefully can see it on camera, but here inside my house, the lid is off. I'm not going to have any escapees. And currently, 1 second, you can see hopefully, the humidity in my house is 68 degrees. That's for sure fuzzy. But it's, my bad, percent. It's 68% humidity inside my house. And since this has been in my room for weeks, but, overnight, the humidity inside of that bin is also going to be roughly around there. Because remember, it's a contained environment, especially if you put a really good lid on. Really good lid. More like a custom lid if you want to contain the environment. And so, if your room, for an example, is 70 degrees, inside of that bin in the very center, because they will cluster together, and when enough of them get together, I wouldn't call it generate heat, but they kind of contain their heat better. And so the very center of that mass, it will be warmer in there than on the outside temperature. So also, when I started the video, I think, it was like 90 degrees. Like I said, like I mentioned, that's too hot. In general, they don't like it. Just like lions or something on the savannah. In the middle of the day, those temperatures are too hot, and that's why they go into the shade and sleep it off. So roaches are the same way. So if it's 90 degrees, like right now it's not. But if it was 90 degrees, you might see all of them hide away and go inside for protection, because under that situation, it's actually going to be cooler inside than it is on the outside. And basically, the same thing is true for the humidity. So whatever your humidity is on the outside, it's going to be it's going to be different than what's on the inside. Especially, like I said, if you put on the right kind of lid or whatever. Because if it's like 68% humidity, like it is right now in my room, but I don't have a pile of lettuce the size of my desk adding water vapors to my environment. That's basically what's happening here. So to help kind of, if you want, something you can do to help trap the in humidity and secure it actually, is you can get, what is it called? Plastic? Saran wrap. You can get like saran wrap and just put it over it. Super easy. Get a tack, punch some air holes or whatever, vent holes. Super easy. Cover like half the bin. Especially if you put that, excuse me. Especially if you put that 6-inch gap in there and put a piece of the plastic or whatever I said over it. Again, the odds of them getting out are so small, because that means they'd have to latch on and separate that. They can't climb on it. Because for those of you that cut out holes and stuff like that for the vents that want to put the screens on, if you use the nylon screens, they can chew through it. It is possible. It's happened to me. What happened was, let me use my cell phone as an example, hopefully. Like this, pretend this was their bin. Like it was like this, but we're looking at the top down. Well, in the center of it is where I had, can I line this up? Is where I had their egg crates. But the males, that's not even straight, but the males with their wings were able to make the 3-inch jump to the wall to latch on to the screen. And over the course of 12 hours, because they were bored and whatnot, they definitely ate a hole in it. And so I was about to go to work that day. I opened up my closet, because that's where I was keeping them at the time. And I literally have like 300 males. None of the females got out. Actually, I have like maybe 2. But I had like 300 escaped males at various positions all over the closet because they had gotten out. And so I, called my boss and I was just like, I'm not coming in today. My cockroaches escaped. And luckily, she knew that I raised cockroaches. She was like, I get it, Phil. Go ahead, take the day off, deal with your bugs. I was like, thank you. So I spend the day collecting them, gathering them back inside the thing. So if you do use a screen, I recommend using the metal screens, not the nylon screens. They're not particularly aggressive when it comes to chewing on things that aren't their food because their mouth parts aren't particularly strong. They're strong enough to break down nuts and peanuts and things without you having to soften them. But as far as like chewing through things, metal and things, they're not really good at it. Nylon's hard for them. So it's the odds of them doing it are pretty small, but it can happen for sure. So the best way to avoid that, use metal screens. And the other thing too, I have seen them almost like an Olympian or something. They will run and jump as well. So when I put so there's a psychological trick here I'm using in my, so there's a psychological trick on the bug that I'm using inside this thing. So if you had this smaller to where you were only like say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across, and for whatever reason man, this is hard on camera, and for whatever reason you had a gap here, right? Because I've done that. Because that's basically what I did in the container I explained. I was like, it'd be equivalent if I put one of these in here and had like a 2-inch perimeter all the way around, right? Because I didn't want them to get to the side. The males, like I said, were able to jump to the side. But in this design, I'm messing with a cockroach's psychological thing. Because if you have the one right here with the 2-inch moat, I guess we'll call it, I have seen them, the males with their wings, they get that double jump. They will run and jump. And if they get that diagonal angle, that in particular is what allows them to latch onto the edges in your guys' bins. So if you stack your egg crates poorly or whatever, and they can get some type of diagonal leap, and they flutter that wing, it's like the secret to their sauce. And that's when the 6-inch barrier starts to fail on a regular basis, or allows them to latch on to the screen on the roof or something like that, and you get 1 or 2 escapees, because many won't make that jump. But, the 3 or 4 over 12 hours, that sends the whole, yeah, it happens. So, here's a trick. That's why we want our things, in general, our highest points anyway, to be next to the wall. Because the roach will naturally walk up next to the wall and try and do that vertical leap that I told you about. And when they do that vertical leap, even with their wings, they can really only jump max 4 inches, maybe 5. So that's why that 6-inch perimeter is super solid. I don't know if you can even tell right now. I guess a fake roach. But even right now, this is the trash can that I showed you last night. Like it's being vented right now. They're actively in there doing stuff. I'm not worried about them escaping or anything like that. I don't know if you guys heard that. That was gross. But they're actively in there, and I'm not worried about them escaping or anything like that. So one of the other warnings and things that can come up are health warnings. This isn't a real concern for most of you, but it is something to be mindful of. And that's going back to the frass. When you clean this out, particularly from the really, really small babies, their poop is essentially dust. Okay, it's micro poops. It is dust. It is indistinguishable from dust. And so you have 1,000, 10,000 baby nymphs pooping mixed in with all the adult poop. Okay? Particularly in dry containers like this. If you have, like I said, the substrate stuff, it all mixes together. It creates its own set of problems. But in dry containers, in the dry methods, which are what I'm doing here, it stays dry and it becomes like a dust. So, when you go to dump your bins out and stuff, you'll be able to see these dust clouds kind of form. And if you're in an enclosed environment, like a bedroom or an office or a shed or something, without proper ventilation, you will, or a mask, you will breathe in that dust. You most definitely will. Even if you can't see, even if you think you're far enough away, like I said, it's so small, it's going to be invisible on the airwaves. you will breathe it in. That's why usually when I do my cleanings, I'm outside, or if I am inside, I use a bunch of fans directed towards like windows and stuff. So that way the dust immediately gets blown away from me. Because remember, it's dust, but it is in fact feces. It's poop. It's toxic. So if you inhale a bunch of that over the course of years, because you have colonies or whatever it is, you most certainly can develop an allergic reaction to it. And to the insect in general, because that's your body saying like, hey, you are constantly around a toxic substance. I need to signal you to let you know it's damaging your health. And so now you start getting rashes and stuff when your body detects that kind of a thing. Because also, when you are dealing with mass numbers of colonies, when you're dealing with thousands of roaches, definitely wear gloves and masks. Because part of what the roaches will do, especially if you feed them all the time, is they will poop as a defense mechanism. And when that poop comes out, it's nice and moist and fresh, as we all know, for your humidity levels before it can dry out. And again, when you have thousands and you have thousands pooping on your hand, that fresh poop, that's the same kind of thing that makes you allergic. So you got cockroach feces on your hands, you have cockroach dust in your air, and that's why you get allergic. It's not from holding them. All you have to do, if it really concerns you, is just go wash your hands afterwards. It's easy. But you can still get the allergic reaction if you do these other two things wrong, particularly during the harvest. It's not dangerous, but you should have some type, if you have big colonies, you should have some type of protective equipment, basic mask or something, and gloves. That's what I use. I have gloves right here. Right, on hand. I got my gloves. And so all the time when I get orders or something like that, somebody wants like 50 roaches and I have to go pick up 50 roaches, yeah, I'll put a glove on. For me personally, it's worth it, and that's why I've been doing this for like 10 years. I sleep right there. I don't have any allergies. That's why I don't think I'll get them, because I really don't mess with the colonies, and when I do, that's only during cleaning, and that's when I know I'm going to stir up to dust, and that's why I try and wait for nice windy days or set up a fan system or something like that to clean the enclosure. So I think that's now everything that I have. I will show you, I'm going to show you now actually. In my example bin, I'm going to have to break it apart real fast. But back to the full design. So imagine this was in here and the other one, but you got it out and it's full of roaches. It's better if it's like this than like this. So what you would want to do, by the way, as a part of a harvest technique, get a tub that's obviously taller than the thing is tall, right? And you can basically hold on to the corner and you hit it this corner and it creates this like swinging motion, and that's going to knock them off better than a straight up and down version or something. You want to go kind of like off to the side. And a good way to do this is if it's like this. If you can get this folded design, because now you can really like hold it, and even in a smaller tub like this, you could very easily hold this side, put this end down, and go like this. Because most of the shock waves now are going to be on this half. So some of the babies back here will fall off, but you'll see a bunch will still be on. But basically all the ones on this side will be off. So then you just switch it and do the same thing. You can even open it up a little bit, help them fall out so they can't, close it. Nah, open. Bam, and just hit that off. You can hit it around to the sides and get those off. So that's another reason why I like to fold my egg crates long term. It's just overall a much more better system. And so I think that's pretty much it. So if you have any comments, questions, concerns, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you like this video, like, subscribe. And I guess I'll see you in the future. And oh yeah, now that I'm done talking, let's see if you guys can see. There you go. See, I added the little pile of the dry mix, and now a bunch of them are coming out despite all my talking and stuff. So Yeah, if your roaches are hungry and they're roughly accustomed to your sounds, you don't have to worry about it too much. Don't overthink it. They'll be fine. Clear tubs, they can work. Up to you though.